Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. Today's video, we're going to be making a patch 10.5 jungle tier list. It's going to be fun. I haven't made one of these since patch 10.3, and there's actually been a lot of changes. So if you watch the 10.3 tier list, there's probably going to be a lot of changes from the last one. We're going to be kind of making this live right here, rather than just having them up and talking about a couple. So this video might be a little bit long, but we're going to actually talk about each champion we're going to place and all that good stuff. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Okay, now that we're into the video, we're about to place the champions in their tiers and all good stuff, but I have to explain a couple parameters about this tier list that I'm making. So the parameters are here is that the target player that I'm aiming this at is, I'd say, the average player. So anybody from bronze to like plat 3 would be about the average players. Obviously, there's a bunch of different things that happens in those elos, but that's about the average player. So that's what this tier list is made for. Other thing, I don't care about win rates. Don't send me like, but Shaco had this win rate. I don't care, man. I don't care. This is a tier list made off of if you are competent at the champion, this is what it's for. Because, for example, Akali had the lowest win rate in the game while simultaneously being the best champion in the game, meaning that people are not good at playing her or playing around that champion. So win rates don't mean anything to me at all, so don't. These champions are placed based off of my knowledge of the game, and you can take that however you want. I don't care. So you can just take it or leave it. Cool. So let's talk about each tier and what each tier actually means to me, so we can get a better idea of gauging where they are. I put one champion in each tier just to indicate what I'm talking about, but we'll go through them real quick. So S tier is going to be optimal or god tier. I don't have any champions in this role, right? In S tier, I'm not going to put any champions on this tier list into that. Previously on 10.3, I had, and 10.2, I had Xin and Elise. That's when level 3 jungling was like insanely strong, as well as the best query in the game is the Gromp queer. There's been a couple changes since then. The best query in the game, there's actually a bunch of really good queers in the game now, with the way Krugs have changed and the champions that are being played a little bit more. There's a lot of different ways you can play, but the Gromp queer is still insanely good. So those champions are still going to be high up there. It's just the meta isn't completely revolving around level 3 jungling now. You can actually play a couple different styles. I really like what's going on in this patch so far. There's actually a lot of things that are really good. So there's going to be a lot of champions in A and B tier on this tier list, because I think a lot of champions are actually really solid in the jungle right now. And you can play a couple different styles. That's why I have nothing in S tier, because something like Elise doesn't necessarily play super well into tanks and stuff like that. And you kind of coin flip the game sometimes when you pick a champion like Elise, because you got to hope that your first couple of plays go off well, and then if they don't, then it kind of pinches you into a bad spot. But still a very strong champion. That's why I don't have either of them in god tier now. Okay, A is going to be strong in most situations, so meaning that you can blind these champions every single game, and they're going to be at least good. Like, as long as you're good at the champion, they're most likely going to be good in most situations, and in some situations they're going to be really powerful. So we have a champion like Xin. Sin's great. He's a level 3 jungler. He has great jungle pathing in the early game, like really flexible jungle pathing. You can do the Krug square, all that good stuff. So it's really flexible jungle pathing, and that's why he's so strong, as well as he's good objective taker. He's good at setting up plays early. And then also, if you're good at the champion, he doesn't actually fall off like people think. If you're actually skilled at the champion, you can make use of the champion at all stages of the game. Like even against tanks and stuff like that, he's actually still super useful. There's a bunch of different styles you can play him in the late game. Okay, cool. So B is going to be solid and strong situationally. So these champions are going to be good most of the time. And then in some situations, very strong. So we have Karthus right here. So the reason I have Karthus right here, if you're like in Diamond or anything like that, this champion is most likely A tier. This champion is very good in high elo. But the issue with Karthus is in low elo, so anywhere from bronze to platinum, honestly, especially if you're in bronze through gold, people really don't understand lane priority correctly. They don't understand, like, when is it okay to go into the river. They don't understand invade timers, so like when the enemy jungler has the ability to invade. And like laners don't understand that. And then if you're in that elo, you probably don't even understand that fully, right? You don't even understand when the enemy jungler is probably going to invade you and where they're pathing towards. So with that in there, it makes Karthus not like super amazing. But if the enemy's picking tanks and they're not going to invade you, then this champion's really, really strong. But if the enemy is picking like a Jarvan and they start rolling over the game early, I mean, sometimes you pick, pick Jarvan or Zen or something like that, and they just roll over and get like 2 ganks off in the first 3 minutes of the game and get 2 kills. You can start to feel the pressure and the heat, and your team will just tilt out of this universe. So that's why I don't have him in A tier. Okay, C is going to be okay mostly. It's going to be okay, and then mostly situational good. So situationally can be good, but just okay. But really good if you're a one trick. That's why I have Shaco here. He's like kind of in the jungle. He's just okay. He's not stronger than like Elise. He's not a tank. He's not, he just doesn't like fit very well. But if you're a one trick, he has a huge amount of outplay ability. A lot of like newer players like in gold, silver, bronze, stuff like that will be confused as to what Shaco even does. People are not used to his AP build, which is the most prevalent build most of the time. They're not used to like killing the clone and annihilating them. So this champion can be very good if you're really skilled on it. This champion can be god tier if you're really skilled. So I'm going to have a lot of one tricks in here like Rengar, shit like that, which are very good if you're very skilled, but just for the average player and you're just kind of okay at the champion, then it's not going to be very good. You shouldn't spend your time learning that champion, D is going to be bad most of the time, and highly situational can be okay. So we have Silas here. Silas is really, really dog in the jungle. I mean, you can make it work for sure. It's just his first clear is just so awful. He scales incredibly well. Like Silas 16 is insane. And you can actually make some plays, but the issue with Silas is you almost can't do anything before your first back. And that makes it so awful because he plays like a level 3 jungler that scales. He plays like kind of like a Jarvan. He has really good playmaking. He has really good sustain, really good dueling. And so that's a benefit you usually utilize at level 3. But Silas has an issue that he can't even clear the jungle without getting to like 200 HP. So it's really hard to even make plays. You kind of have to avoid the enemy jungler until you're first back. And if the enemy plays like Jarvan, Graves, and they want to invade you, or Camille, or anything like that, like good luck, buddy. You're going to be 200 HP, and Graves is going to have 4 Trigger stats and have 100 armor and just annihilate you. It's, but if the enemy is picking like something like a Sejuani or Zac, that's not going to make a play really early on to the game. Zac likes to farm to 4. Sejuani is just not that huge playmaker unless they have like Camille or Yasuo or something. Really early on in the game, they're not going to invade you. Then you can actually full clear one side of the jungle, recall, and then get back onto the map, and then he's actually ready to play. But that is highly situational, right? It's impossible to blind pick this champion and it be good. Obviously, you can make it work, but it's really bad. Okay, E, you need to stop. I don't think I need to talk about Wukong. He's so bad. He's like worse than Silas, like his jungle clear. It's so slow. It's so unhealthy. It's just a terrible champion. And I can't wait for him to get reworked. Okay, F is you are inting, and basically E and F are very similar, but like something like Nasus, like you're straight inting if you're picking Nasus jungle. That's why I have him here. Okay, now we're about to place some champions. Before we place champions, Xin is going to indicate set because this character list doesn't have set on it. So I'm going to use Xin in the place of set. So just know that. Okay, cool. So let's start placing champions. Okay, Darius starting out hot. So Darius, where are we going to place Darius? I think Darius is actually pretty solid. So you might think I'm trolling when I say this. He just got buffed again in the jungle. I already thought it was okay, just nobody was playing it. So Darius is just a really bad champion in general, the way you play him in top lane. So the way you play him in top lane, he's like a cheese top laner. You take 2 combat spells, and you try to cheese early game kills, and then you get so far ahead that melees can't fight you ever again. And if the enemy has a melee jungler, you can 1v2. It's insane. Okay, that style can work in the jungle, but it requires you to, it requires the whole enemy top side to be melees. It actually works really well if the jungle and top are melee champions. And then you kind of have to do Darius cheese stuff. You have to cheese them out. But if you don't play that style, playing him as like a pseudo engage tank is actually not bad at all. You take Aftershock, you got to make sure you have Nimbus Cloak on your secondary, and you take Cinderhulk and you build engage items like Righteous Glory and Deadman's. and you actually are just this huge sustain tank, and every time your flash is up, you can engage a fight like really big. It's actually pretty solid. His jungle career is pretty good early on in the game, and his dueling potential, you know, he's Darius. He can outduel most people, and Aftershock will let you do that as well. So actually pretty solid, just nobody's playing it. I don't think it's like optimal, but it definitely works. Cool. Diana, we're going to have in A tier. Another pick that not a lot of people are playing. And Diana does a cool thing because she's an AP jungler. So the AP jungle item is Runic Echoes. It's just like a really, really, really good item. She already was good in the jungle before she cut her changes. And I'm not really sure why nobody's playing her or why she's not being played as much. I don't really like playing Diana. That's why I don't ever play her. But she's actually pretty strong. Cool. Her jungle career is really good. She has a really good build path in the jungle. You can build a bruiser. You can build full one shot. It's actually really good. Especially like with a couple combos your team has really good wombo combo potential. So you can do a lot of things with your draft. Okay. Amumu. I think this one's a controversial. I think for whatever reason, a lot of people like Amumu, and I really don't understand why. I'm going to put Amumu. I'm not going to give him the Silas treatment. I had him in maybe E tier last time. Like, you need to stop. I'm going to put him in C. Okay, the Center Hulk buffs were nice, but this champion's a level 6 jungler, and he's a tank that just isn't as good as the other tanks. So think about like Sejuani and Zac. Sejuani and Zac can make plays at level 3 and level 4, scale just as well, has the same amount of utility. Amumu has a little bit more damage than Sejuani, but Zac has plenty of damage. Like, he doesn't do anything better than any of the tanks. He doesn't. He just walks around the map. He has no movement speed buff. His dash is a skill shot. Like, he just does. He doesn't do it, man. Amumu, like, in the way that League of Legends functions now, is just not a good champion. He would have to be so overpowered for him to be good, and it blows my mind that he was nerfed on this patch. Actually blows my mind. Okay, Garen. Garen is another. He's okay. He's really just okay. I really like Garen jungle, and I was hoping he would be stronger, but he's just okay. You go the damage build with Trinity Force. You can go Blood Razor. It makes your damage early do a lot more, but I think Cinder Hulk might be better because you don't actually end up maxing E early, and then you end up stacking HP later on in the game. It's okay. I wish it was better. Yeah. Hecarim is going to be solid, strong situationally. He's just not quite as strong as some of the better junglers that we're going to have in A tier, but he's really good. I put him above Darius for sure. This isn't necessarily going to be an order on each of the lines, but, you know, he's pretty solid. He's one of my favorite champions, one of my most played, actually. He's strong. He's okay. Just, you know, he's kind of like a level 3 jungler, but just Lee Sin is better. Like champs like Lee Sin, Elise, stuff like that are better level 3 junglers if that's what you're playing for. But, you know, Hecarim functions as a traditional frontline later. Mundo is another one I'm going to put in. Okay, he's okay. A lot of people really like Mundo. Don't quite understand why, but he's a tank with no CC. If you get to the late game, he's a monster and can just run over people, right? But, I mean, if you're going to play a tank in the jungle, like, just play Sejuani and Volibear, Zac. They're just much better, in my opinion. Okay, cool. We have Echo. Echo is going to be an A tier. Just like Diana can utilize the Runic Echoes, really strong item. Echo can act as a secondary engage, a pseudo tank that is also an assassin, has a really nice build path, has a really cheap build path with the jungle item, Proto Belt, Zanya's, has a really, really, really nice build path. Decent jungle queer, flexible jungle pathing, everything you want in a jungler, honestly. I've been a fan of Echo jungle for years, even before it was good. Okay, Elise is going to be another one in A tier. Can utilize the AP jungle item, which is really good. Level 3 jungler, which is really strong. Only issue with Elise is, you know what? I'm actually going to put Elise in B tier, but high B tier. The issue with Elise is you sometimes coin flip the game into your plays not working early game, and then the value of you versus if the enemy team has a Sejuani or a Zac and your first 2 plays don't go off well, they are already better than you. After once they hit level 6, they are a much, much, much better champion than you. This is a really, really, really good champion if you have a duo and you're going to play in the dive a lot. It's really insane. But I'm actually moving her down to B tier, where I previously had her in God tier. The reason why she's moving down is she's really awful in the tanks. Like, really awful in the tanks. But like Lee Sin, can do shit in the tanks. Echo can do shit in the tanks. And tanks are just being played a little bit more, and I think they're actually good. And even if they're not being played a lot, maybe right at this second, I think they're going to be played a little bit more. I don't think tanks are the meta, by the way. I think level 3 jungling is still really strong. And I think playing champions that are good in the tanks are really good. But tanks are definitely viable, which is why this is like this. Okay, Evelynn is solid, strong situationally. If you're in bronze, silver, or gold, you can straight up, especially bronze and silver, you can straight up just power farm, ignore the game, and then just constantly kill people. It doesn't feel like Karthus. It kind of is the same playstyle to Karthus, except for like you're invisible and nobody knows where to be. So, but she's just kind of okay. She can get just like shut down by level 3 junglers really easily early on in the game. Like, you know, Elise or Jarvan starts running over the game. It can start to feel really bad. But if you can get to 6 without anything going on, she's like really strong. So, yeah, there we go. Okay, Graves, my boy Graves. I have been spamming Graves, dude. The changes to Graves are amazing. I'm hyped for Graves mid, but I don't think anybody's going to play it. Graves mid has actually been strong for a while. But with the mana changes, his MR changes, ooh, man, I love Graves. I love Graves. So Graves is really strong in the early game. He's one of the very few champions that are strong early game that also scale. He also scales super well. Also very good in the tanks. So you can build a tank buster build on Graves. So if they're playing tanks, he's very good. He's also aggressive in the early game. You can shut people down. If they play some bullshit like Silas or play like Amumu or something like that, you can just straight up shut them down in their jungle. And it's amazing. I love Graves. Cool. Gragas, another one that's going to be A tier. You can utilize the AP item, good engage, has really good flexible jungle pathing, can do a full blue side clear, can do Krug's clear, or can do the small camp clear. Gragas is really good and combos really well, especially if you have a duo. Combos really well with a lot of champions that are meta. So Gragas is really great. Ivern, I'm just going to put him as okay. He's actually pretty good, but it's just really hard to play in solo queue. It's really hard to play Ivern in solo queue. I used to play a lot of Ivern actually, but yeah, it's just really tough to play, especially in like bronze and silver. And then like in all EVOs, like nobody even knows what he does half the time. Like even when I would play him, I would always have to explain to my teammates what he even does sometimes because absolutely nobody plays him. So yeah, so it's a big issue. Cool. Camille. I'm going to put her in the okay tier. I previously had her maybe A or B. I think she's really powerful as a level 2 jungler. I think level 2 jungling is fine. And she's pretty decent in the tanks. It's just, she's just not as good as Lee Sin, Jarvan, Graves, those types of champions. I would just rather play those. But Camille, if you're really good at the champion, is really good. You have to play a really, really, really aggressive style, or this really doesn't work anymore. Since their Scuttle Crab changes, you have to play really, really, really aggressive. You can kill people level 2 in their jungle, invade. It's kind of a harder style, and you have to like really know what you're doing to make Camille really work. Aatrox, we're gonna put him in the bad most of the time, highly situational okay. His jungle clear is much better than Silas, but with a lot of the changes to Aatrox, reducing his healing early on and his Q damage on to minion and monsters. I believe that was changed. I used to play a lot of Aatrox jungle. It just doesn't feel as good at all. And you're just better off playing any of the other fighters. Just not as good. Okay, Kane actually got another buff on this patch. My boy Kane keeps getting buffed. Kane is great on this patch. I maybe had him B tier previously, but Kane is amazing in a tank, so people playing tanks. Kane was already pretty solid in the meta. He farms incredibly fast. You can actually get off ganks. Most of the times it's just like, you know, you're just doing W ganks, but you know, you can make people feel your pressure a little bit in the early game. But he's actually really solid and he's really good in the tank. So I'm really excited to see what happens with Kane right now. He's also amazing if you're a one trick and you know how to play him correctly, but he's really, really, really good in the tanks. And if people aren't picking tanks, then, you know, you just go Shadow Assassin. So it's great. Okay, Malachi. I love Malachi. And Malachi is going to be moving on up. Previously, I didn't even have him registering. With the changes to Cinder Hulk, he's very good. You can actually take Aftershock or Predator is actually kind of fun. But this champion's actually pretty solid in the jungle. It's got a little bit underrated. Just not quite as good as Zac and Sejuani, that type of stuff. But he's actually pretty solid. Jarvan, my boy, he's going to A tier. So Jarvan is an early game jungler. He's a level 2 jungler. Level 2 and level 3 jungling is very strong. But he's one of the very few level 2 junglers that actually scales into the late game. So Jarvan's just an amazing pick. I don't think I need to talk about it much. So I might burn through some of these rather than talking a whole lot about them now, because we kind of got to get through a lot, but I'll always talk about each of them a little bit. Okay, Jax is going to be solid. Jax has a strong level 3. He scales really well. He's very good in the tanks. He's good in the other fighters. He's just really a good champion overall. Better in top lane, but is fine in the jungle as well. Fiddlesticks, bad most of the time. If highly situational, okay. If you're one trick, it's fine. There's like one tricks in Korea who've made it to master, but Fiddlesticks is just not great in his current iteration. Okay, Kindred. I'm going to put Kindred in B tier, but if you're really good at the champion, this champion can be very, very, very good. I played a lot of this champion in preseason. Actually felt pretty good. Has really good Dragon Clear, is decent in the tanks, is good in like Jarvan, Graves, that type of stuff. Is good at, it can dodge out a lot of the skill shots of these people up here. But I'm just not feeling it. Also, in like lower ELOs, sometimes it's difficult to manage your marks and stuff like that, or your team understand like when you're actually going to go for a specific mark. And I think just a lot of players who are new to Kindred don't really understand that as well either. But I think Kindred's just pretty solid. You can definitely, if you want to play the champion, you're good at the champion, play the champion. It's good if you're good at it. Okay, Kha'zix. I think Kha'zix is fine. I may have rated him a lot lower before. I think it's actually fine, especially with people playing a little bit less aggressive. I think it's actually pretty fine to just kind of like farm it out a bit, and then you're Kha'zix, and you do tons of damage to dragons. If you can get a lead on any side of the map, actually pretty good. Since level 3 jungling isn't like every single game where it was a couple patches ago, I think Kha'zix is a little better because of that. So that's why we have Kha'zix and Beecher right here. It's pretty solid. If you want to play Kha'zix, he's pretty good. Okay. Mordekaiser is going to be C tier. He's okay. His ganks are just not good. His jungle career just got buffed and it was already pretty fine. So he's just okay. I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't recommend playing him either. He's a good champion, but like his ganks are so unreliable. Like his E is the easiest skill shot to dodge in the entire game. Like if you flash E, like they have like a whole second to flash out of it. Whereas like something like Darius, who does very similar things to Mordekaiser within the jungle, you can't flash his E. You have to predict him flashing on top of you. So Mordekaiser is just kind of whack. His ultimate's great, but he's just kind of whack in the jungle. They're trying to make it work, but it's just not very good. Olaf is going to be A tier. Olaf is very good. He's pretty decent into most of the tanks. He's pretty decent into most of the tanks and all that good stuff. So, and he's great at clearing. Everybody knows what Olaf does. Olaf's just really solid right now. Ramus is going to be in the D tier. Bad most of the time. Highly situational can be okay. If the enemy has a ton of AD champions, this champion's amazing. If the enemy has, if you have Yasuo on your team and you're a duo with him, then this champ's really good. If the enemy team is trying to run a Yi funnel, then this champion's very good. But other than that, this champion is pretty dog, and I have no idea why he was nerfed. This champion is so bad. I love Ramus. This champion is so bad. I've actually played so much Ramus when Ramus was kind of decent, like 3 seasons ago. But he is so not good. Okay, Pantheon. My boy Pantheon, we're going to put him into B tier. He does a lot of the things that J4 does, but he just doesn't scale quite as well. And is a little bit coin flippy because his jungle career isn't amazing. He's like a way overtuned champion, and I don't know why more people don't play him in all roles, except for AD. But he's a little coin flippy. Just getting your plays off, and doesn't quite scale as well as J4 into the late game if your plays don't go off in the early game. If your plays don't go off well on J4, you just build a stone plate and you ult people. If your plays don't go well on Pantheon, you build a stone plate, I guess, and then you jump into people and you use your E and you live for like 1 second longer, but you don't actually like do anything. You stun one person and then you just kind of walk around if you're like super far behind. So yeah, Master E, we're gonna put him into B tier. Maybe I had him in A tier before. I just don't think Master E is good. A lot of people are playing tanks. Master E is really bad in the tanks because they have CC. In the one-to-one comparison, he's good in the tanks, but just not very good in the tanks. Lee Sin can get a lot more done. Echo, Graves, he can just match you in power farm. Kane can just match you in power farm. Like if that's the style you want to play, and they're just better than you at it. So that's why we have him down here. Okay, Nidalee. Nidalee is okay. If you're a one trick, this champ's really, really good, but just doesn't really do anything that any of these champs don't already do. I think this champion can be really, 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 really good, but you have to be really skilled on the champion, and a lot of your team doesn't even know like how to even play with her, especially in like low elo. So yeah, Sejuani is going to be... I was considering putting her in A tier, but I'm just going to put her in B tier. I think like if you want, this isn't really like a climbing tier list. It's more just like how good the champions are. But I'm a little bit thinking about like if you're wanting to climb, I wouldn't like first like spend a whole lot of time learning Sejuani. I mean, you can spend a lot of time learning Sejuani. It's going to be good. But if you already play like more aggressive champions like these up here, then you're going to be better suited to win more games by playing these. But Sejuani is really amazing, especially if there's a good setup. Like I'll even play Sejuani sometimes. I like the champion, but like if I have like a Camille and a Yasuo on my team, like there's no way I'm not playing Sejuani because the way the combos work with them. Like it's good, really, really, really good in some situations, and it's just a really solid champion overall. It can be good, but like if you're really trying to like gain ELO and like really trying to like learn the game better, I'd probably play champs like these up here. Cool. Malphite is okay. He's fine. You can just power farm. If the enemy jungler is power farming something like Yi, you can just match. So he's okay. You know, if the game doesn't get blown out in the early game, like you do some crazy stuff on Malphite, he's just fine. Rek'sai, I'm gonna put Rek'sai in B tier. I don't think Rek'sai is as good as some of the other aggressive options. Even though Rek'sai is technically a direct Lee Sin counter, doesn't actually do anything in the late game and can kind of be a coin flippy champion. And a lot of games kind of go late, especially in low elo. So I don't think this champion's as good as these other like more aggressive fighter like champions, but definitely good. You can play Rek'sai and snowball games and win them super fast. Qiyana is gonna be bad. No, not you need to stop. It's gonna be bad. Most of the time, her clear is just so much worse, and you're just better off playing like Echo or Kane. Like, you know, if you're wanting to play like assassin type champions, Diana, you're better off just playing those champs, honestly. But has an insane ultimate. It's still, that's why we don't have her in a lower tier, because she still has a lot of utility in her kit, and it's just a really overtuned champion in general. But just the nerfs to the jungle just hit her really hard. Cool. Skarner is going to be okay. Can be very strong, especially if you're one trick. This champion's just okay. If you have a duo and you're going to like try to get them really far ahead, then this champion can be really good. But Skarner's just okay. Other tanks are better. Rengar is going to be another okay. I only have him in this tier. I think he's pretty bad, but the only reason I have him in this tier is because if you're a one trick, this champion's like nuts. But it's just okay. Talon, my boy Talon, he's going to be in B tier. Talon is actually really good. Actually has a really flexible jungle clear, a really good first clear actually. Insane dragon clear, really fun gank paths. People aren't like ready for it, and actually really good. Just not a whole lot of people play it. I kind of spammed it the first day when he got on patch 10.4, but I really haven't played him since because I just don't really like playing him. I think he's kind of boring to play, even though like other people, like tons of people one trick that champion. I just think he's kind of boring, but he's pretty good. Xin Zhao. So last time I made one of these, I had him in A tier because level 3 jungling, level 2 jungling was so powerful. He was actually very good at dueling most of those champions that did that, but we're actually going to move him down to C tier. He's very, very, very coin flippy champion. And Xin Zhao is like me as a player. I don't really play that much anymore, but as a player, Xin Zhao is probably my best champion. Like when it's in level 2 metas, like I'm just destroying people. But with people actually playing around objectives better now, like actually understanding that you don't have to int for every dragon, and not like fighting at level 4 constantly, and people are just playing a little bit more defensive, it feels. And with a lot of tanks being played, if your level 2 and level 3 plays don't work out, you are just, and the enemy is playing like Graves and he just got level 4 and you have only taken 2 camps, you are done. Like the game's over for you. If they have like Sejuani and Zach and they just power farm the whole time and your plays didn't work, the game is over for you. Whereas something like J4 can do the same thing you can do, but J4 is just as useful as those other champions after level 3. So that's why it's tough. Okay, Ornn is going to be, since his nerfs, so before I maybe had him B or A tier, but since his nerf, I think he's just okay in the jungle. You get a lot less levels in the jungle. So I think he's just okay now. Ornn is like one of the best champions in the game, but I think he's just okay in the jungle now, especially in this ELO. You have to farm a whole lot on Ornn. I think it's harder to get to your level break points since they changed the level. Before I maybe had him A or B tier, but I think he's good because he's such a good champion, but I just think he's fine. Not really like OP or anything like that like he previously was. Shyvana is going to be another one that is okay. That's another okay champion. You have to power farm a lot. A little bit coin flippy. If you go the AP build, can be very strong. If your team sets you up for success, the champion is like way overpowered. It's kind of insane and so unfun to play against, but most of the time I think this champion is just kind of okay. You kind of have to dragon stack. There's a lot of conditions for this champion to be OP. And whereas like something like Elise, Diana, Echo, Graves, they're pretty good every game and they don't have to meet a lot of conditions. But Shyvana has to meet a lot of conditions for her to like get off the ground and actually be very strong. Okay, Zed is another one I'm going to put as okay. I think there's actually ways to make this champion work and make it pretty good. But the energy refund is pretty weird in the jungle sometimes if you don't know it right, and especially if you haven't played a lot of that champion, it's kind of weird. And like not having early lethality feels weird. So sometimes you feel like you should skip your jungle item and it just gets really squirrely. I don't think he's that great in the jungle. I think it's fine if you want to play it. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's that good. Nocturne, we're going to put him in A tier. Nocturne is actually pretty decent on this patch. He's been good the entirety of the jungle, but with people playing a little bit more reserved, kind of opens up the door for Nocturne to bring in the terror, or, welcome you to his Terror Dome. I think Nocturne's actually really good. And a lot of people are playing him in solo lanes now, so it can confuse people in the draft. I think he's pretty good. Nunu is going to be another B tier. I just don't think he's quite as good as any of these champions up here, but Nunu is fine. If you want to play Nunu, it's fine. Has quick jungle clear, powerful ganking, decent, decent in the jungle, or decent mid game and late game with his utility and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think Nunu is pretty good. Zach is going to be, I feel like I need to put a tank in A tier, so I'm going to, and it's going to be Zach. I think Zach is the best tank jungler on this patch. The conditions with Sejuani is really OP. If she has like double melee solos, then this champion is like crazy OP. But other than that, I think Zach is the best tank jungler, and that's why I have him up here. Unless you want to include Trundle as a tank jungler, because I think Trundle's very good. Then we'll put him up here. So yeah, Zach's just pretty solid. He has a really fast jungle clear. It kind of takes until level 4 to really get off the ground, but once you get off the ground, it can be very strong. And actually with the Cinderhulk changes, has a really fast jungle clear after you have your Cinderhulk. It's actually pretty insane. Cool. Vi is going to be one that's just okay. She can do some cool things at level 3, but she's not as good as the other level 3 junglers. She doesn't scale as well as the other level 3 junglers. And she kind of functions kind of like a tank in the mid game, but just isn't as good as the other tanks. Previously, I had her higher because I didn't think the other tanks were as good. But since a lot of the changes, some of the other tanks are better. So she's just okay. You can play her for sure. I think she's better than most of the champions in this tier, but she's just okay. Warwick is another one that it's just okay. Like, he's a level 3 jungler. He's usually stronger than most of the other level 3 junglers at level 3, but like this champion is just not like, it's just like a dog that runs around and gets a shield and makes people scared. But like Warwick just doesn't do anything unless you're like crazy snowballing. This champion just like, it really doesn't do anything. If the enemy jungler has a brain, then this champion is like really bad. Even if the champion's like making plays happen and stuff, it's like, I would just rather have almost any other champion on my team to be strong. So, yeah. Okay, Volibear. I think Volibear is actually pretty solid on this patch for sure. With the tank changes, he actually clears the jungle insanely fast with his E and his Q. It's actually pretty cool. I think Volibear is pretty strong, and is, yeah, I think he's good. No need to explain anymore. Okay, I think Trundle is very good. So you can do a couple different builds. So you can do like the press the attack Blood Razor and actually just destroy people. Or you can play the utility style to peel your carry. And then also this champion destroys tanks. So if the enemy locks in Sejuani, Zac, Nunu, anything like that, you just immediately lock in Trundle and he annihilates tanks. He also is good into Olaf as well. Good in the J4. He's good in the tons of champions. So Trundle has actually been strong for a while as like a carry champ. You can play him as a carry, press the attack, or you can take press the attack and build like a support style and a tankier style and still have press the attack for the early game skirmishes. He beats most people at level 3 actually. If you haven't played the champion a lot, you wouldn't think, but this champion actually can destroy people in 1v1s and actually has a lot of utility in the game. Becomes like a super tank if you want him to be and destroys other tanks. He's a tank buster. Okay, Talia is going to be strong or solid and strong situationally. I think a lot of people don't know how to play around this champion. I think this champion is very difficult to play in the jungle. You have to do a lot of weird things to Kaidi, and there's been a lot of changes to Talia to slightly disincentivize her in the jungle. But if you have a duo or you have like a Pantheon on your team or a Pantheon on your team or a Nectin or anything, like this champion is like crazy OP, but champion's pretty good if you're good at the champion. Okay, Poppy. I was debating putting this champion in A tier because I actually think it's very good. Poppy got buffed in the jungle in this patch. She was already good. If you don't know how to play Poppy, maybe I'll make a Poppy guide in the future if you don't know how to play Poppy in the jungle. But essentially, you play her like a level 3 jungler, like Elise and Echo, something like that. So you're playing aggressive at level 3. But the difference is you're a tank. And you're like one of the only tanks that can play super aggressive at level 3. You build a full tank build, and you can either take Aftershock, Conqueror, or Hail of Blades. And if you take Hail of Blades, your level 3 skirmish ability is nuts. It's actually nuts if you take Hail of Blades. If not, you just take Aftershock and you're like a crazy tank because you're going to build full tank anyways. Even if you're ahead, you're going to build a full tank, and Poppy's disgusting. She's also insanely good as a counter pick. She also counters everything Lee Sin wants to do. You can completely deny his Q from connecting with you. You can deny him from ward hopping. Actually just fully destroys a lot of these champions up here. So yeah. Cool. We have Cho Gath. The only reason I have Cho Gath on the here is because somebody complained last time that I didn't have Cho Gath on the tier list. I mean, they didn't really complain. They just kind of asked. I'm kind of being mean, but whatever. So we're gonna have Cho Gath on here. Cho Gath is going to be C tier. He's okay. It's fine. You kind of have to power form in the champion. You can secure objectives, but like just everything Sejuani and Zac does, Cho Gath does not. So it's just okay. I think he's better than Amumu. I think Amumu is garbage, even if you love playing him. I think he's bad, but I'm just putting this up here to satisfy people who like playing Amumu. Because if you can get Amumu off the ground, he has a big ult. It's like, does a lot of damage. But just play Sejuani or Zac instead. So, yeah, if you want tanks that actually do things. Okay, Twitch, this little rat. We're going to put him on okay. He's good if you're a one trick. And if you're in bronze and silver and gold, even, like, dude, it blows my mind that people still die to Twitch ganks. It's crazy. I mean, you see Red IRL, he's like Challenger sometimes. And he just kills people as Twitch in the jungle. But if you're seriously in like, especially gold and below, it still works on platinum. I mean, it works at all ELOs actually. It's kind of insane. But if you're in gold or below, people would just let you level 2 gank them. It's insanity. It's actually insanity. So yeah, Twitch is fine. If you're one trick, he's very good. But if your level 2 play doesn't work and the enemy team has a brain and hands and are conscious of what's going on, this champion's really bad. Because if they just destroy you in the early game, it's really hard to get off the ground. Obviously, if you're like a one trick, you know how to make it work because you've been through that and stuff like that. That's why someone like Red RL is like really high rated. And he plays Twitch jungle and Evelyn jungle and all that shit. Like even when they're bad. But mostly this champ is just not very, it's just a cheese champ, straight up. Okay, this is going to be Set, remember? So this is Set. Set is going to be okay. I think with some of the changes he's gotten, some of the nerfs. I really don't think he's that amazing in the jungle. He just got nerfed for jungle in this patch, I believe, as well. Champion's really good, but it's just not as good as Sejuani, Zac, Volibear, Poppy within the jungle. Set as a champion is really strong champion in top lane and mid lane, but I think it's harder to make it work in the jungle now. They've been making a lot of changes to make sure he can't play jungle as well. Anyways, guys, that is it. If I didn't talk about your favorite champion, then I'm sorry. I just did the ones that I wanted to do, in which I did almost all the junglers. So that's pretty cool. Even some that are like really non-meta. So yeah. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you missed my patch notes rundown and you want to hear more about the patch and hear me talk about the patch and kind of explain that more, if you like this, then make sure you check that out. I did the patch rundown yesterday before making this. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Again, if you don't, if you want to look at win rates and you want to watch like pro guides or something like that, then by means, just go do it, man. If you don't like my tier list, then okay, take it or leave it, man. I don't care. This is my honest opinions and thoughts about the balance changes and where the junglers fall. And I'm not making concessions, and I apologize for nothing. Anyways, guys, that is it. I said anyways and guys like 100 times in this thing. I need to end this, so bye. I'm unstable. I don't know what's going on. Bye.